February 28, 1993. At the Mount Carmel Center, a religious group raging with dictatorship and extremist belief prepares for their perceived fight against the end times and the hordes of Babylon. At the same time, the ATF prepares for their perceived right to take suspected illegal weapons inside the center, expecting to prove their capability. They stand ready for deployment. Hundreds of agents, 80 adults, 46 children, and newsfeed all prepared for what would be one of the most disastrous operations in law enforcement history. Siege, Waco.
Vernon Howell, a popular man amongst his community, was believed to be for great things. Born into an unstable relationship, which, for the sake of avoiding controversy, I won't talk about that much, was shortly dismantled. Describing his childhood as lonely, he would be bullied very early on and left alone. However, when Koresh became interested in sports, he quickly made a turnaround. During this time, he would attempt multiple jobs, all of which he was let or fired from. After this, okay, hold on. Pausing for all this edgy stuff. This dude is like the biggest pedophile in the world. Real fast. There's 50 different things where he said he would be able to date 16-year-olds, and yeah. Don't feel bad about this guy getting killed. All right. Yeah, just don't feel bad about it. Anyway, after this, Vernon Howell would move and start a music career. However, this would quickly fail. Due to this, he would quickly move to Waco, Texas, starting his life in the Branch Davidians. The Branch Davidians were a group of more extreme believers of the Christian faith, and when he heard about them and their beliefs, Vernon quickly began to take a liking, joining them and making a name for himself amongst them as a preacher. Being a talented musician and a natural speaker, Vernon would quickly gain the trust and liking of a large portion of the group, making others believe that he was able to become the leader. Taking advantage of this and being somewhat a fanatic, Vernon would start telling people that he could unlock the 7 seals and start the end times. In 1983, Vernon started to believe that he was the instrument of God, changing his name to David Koresh in relation to various biblical stories. Soon after this, the Mount Carmel Center, the then base of the Davidians, caught fire. The leader, Rodin, placed Koresh accountable. After this, Koresh and a group of Davidians would be forced out of the center at gunpoint, where they then left and settled at Palestine, Texas. David Koresh would immediately begin to gain a following. Combining his musician skills with a natural speaking ability, he would gain a large amount of people that believed in him. These people would quickly be brainwashed into a cult following. After gaining a majority of the former Davidian following, Koresh would attempt to criminally charge the leader of the Mount Carmel Center. This, however, was somewhat debated after he sent 7 armed men on an alleged photography mission, where they would then engage in a firefight with a local group. After being charged with attempted murder, David would successfully defend the group and, in time, take the Mount Carmel Center. The Mount Carmel Center would be changed drastically, being fortified, stockpiled, and extensively developed. All the while, David would extend his following, further solidifying their belief that he was the true Messiah, that the end times were fast approaching, and that they would be the ones to save humanity. And in short time, David would obtain an FFL license and begin to create weapons in the center. David took his time and began to turn the center into a site for training his followers, as David began to maintain that all men who joined were to not be allowed wives, causing many of them to divorce. And at the same time, women and children were taught to fight as well, arming them with the weapons that they developed themselves. At around the same time, a group of Australians that grew distrustful from the group had fled. Returning to Australia, they managed to tip reporters that would investigate what people believed of Koresh. Koresh and many reporters were subsequently interviewed. As many more news stories began to take out about the group, more and more time was allocated to preparation for the ultimate task that they would undertake. However, in due time, the USPS would inform the ATF of a package of grenades that were destined towards the center. The ATF, growing distrustful of the group and how much they had been outfitting themselves, filed a search and arrest warrant.
What about the girl next to you? What do you think of that?
She's great.
Well, how old are you? 16?
Being notified of the experience, news reporters fled to the region, with many of them set up around the cities in Waco. People naturally asked questions, and it was only a matter of time until one of the Branch Davidian members were informed of the coming spectacle. As they returned to the compound, they would inform the rest of the coming battle.
The ATF agents would arrive roughly after this, and the town would falsely tell them that Koresh rarely left the site, prompting them to choose to relay siege at the compound rather than wait for him and be sure. And soon enough, the search warrant was executed. At around 9:45, while deploying tactical gear, the ATF would claim to have been immediately met with gunfire, causing the first firefight to begin. 3 helicopters of the Army National Guard would be deployed on top of the site, being used as a distraction. The ATF would begin taking on casualties as members began to besiege the west side of the building. As they attempted this, multiple were wounded as they went to go on top of ladders to reach Koresh's room, where they believed weapons were stored. 3 agents would be next to the window, with one of them being killed and another wounded. At other sides of the building, agents were being pinned down by gunfire, as another few attempted to get inside, one of which being shot in the head, fatally.
Go back to the car and get me another tape then. Tell me about what's going on out front.
After around 45 minutes, the gunfire died off as the ATF ran out of ammunition. After the fight, 4 agents had died and 16 had been injured. While 5 Branch Davidians perished after the fight, several would attempt to reach inside of the center when agents spotted and engaged in another firefight, killing all of them.
And after realizing that the situation they created was unbearable, the ATF would hand off the operation to the FBI. The FBI took no time as they deployed the FBI's hostage rescue team. They would manage to make contact in the first few days with Koresh, being made aware that children were on site. During negotiations, Koresh agreed to release hostages every time the media played his message, and soon enough, the FBI got into contact with the Dallas radio team, KLRD. And over the next few days, these acts would save 21 kids and multiple women from the site, coming with notes that would destine them to people who would raise and care for them. The FBI would play psychic operation audio into the compound, deterring them from sleeping. It is rumored that David Koresh would play music in order to deter them and show them that they still believed in what they were doing. Soon enough, however, there would be reports of suspected child abuse from within the compound. The Attorney General and then President Jimmy Carter both agreed that it was within their best interest to save the children, no matter the resolution. Still, as more and more days passed, the Davidians showed more and more that they did not wish to surrender, that they believed in what they were doing, and that they had stood in defiance of the governmental forces. And it was only a matter of time until the FBI would finally take action.
His own disciples forsook him, except Mary Magdalene. She stayed with him to the very end, didn't she? Last to leave the cross, first to come to the sepulchre. Now we need to sit here and we need to ask ourselves a question. How come the men of that generation did not believe in Christ? I'm sure you're all aware of how I'm involved in a very serious thing right now. And I'm sure that a lot of you realize that I should be possibly scared, concerned. There's women, children, and men involved in our situation here at Mount Carmel.
Bringing in supplies and allowing him to sermonize on the radio in a bid to get him to surrender. Though he allowed a number of Davidians to leave, Koresh displayed no signs of turning himself in.
And on April 19th, the FBI began to take the accumulated military vehicles that they had got to the region and move them to Waco. News reporters, family members, agents, and onlookers stood waiting for the next action. And it was FBI that acted. Later in the day, people would wake up to see that the FBI was releasing military engineering vehicles into the compound. These vehicles would break the windows of the site, pumping in tear gas into the building, this specific agent being highly flammable. At around this point, taps inside of the building would pick up word of people potentially setting gasoline inside of the building. Still, it is not totally known what caused the following events. But no matter who you side with, the reality stays the same. And in the end, no matter what, something could have always been done to prevent it. As shortly after this, the Mount Carmel Center engulfed in
into flames.
It looks like federal agents out there. Bonnie, the entire roof is gone.
The entire roof is gone. Mike, what else can you tell us? Any sign of firefighting equipment? I know.
No, none whatsoever. And there's our shot from, you'll remember, Bonnie, what we refer to as farm cam. That's looking from the north side into the compound. Apparently the north side is not involved yet, but it appears the rest of the compound is filled with an orange fire and acrid black smoke. This fire is completely out of control, and still no indication, no sign that anybody is coming.
Watch it, get out, please, get out.
The situation overall was a horrible disaster, as people around the states began to protest the FBI and the ATF. And over the course of the next few months, people from both sides began to get prosecuted.
9 months ago, ATF, in conjunction with state, local,
Still,
county
what can't be undone
authorities,
is the damage caused on that day,
by a group of individuals occupying a compound
or the lives lost
10 miles
in combat.
Texas. The group is identified as the
And now we are left to wonder, was it all worth it?